Jordan, welcome to the show today.
Michael, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, you've had great success in your multifamily journey. Within just short 3 or 4 months, you raised over $700,000. Never did that before. And I want to get into that, but I do want to know, rewind the clock a little bit. Go back to maybe you had a rich dad, poor dad moment. Like, go back to when was real estate first on your brain? Like, when did you really start taking action towards real estate? And what did that action look like? It may not have started with multifamily out of the gate. Maybe you had a different idea, but what motivated you to look into real estate in the first place?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So I had looked at getting into real estate for about a decade. So 2015 timeframe. Started looking at single family homes. Wanted to jump in, but I just never pulled the trigger, never took action. As my career progressed, I started to climb the ladder in my previous W-2 job. And I just always had this underlying feeling that there was more out there, more that I could do and accomplish. So that's when I started to look into. I came across the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, read that in a couple days, and then immediately after, actually came across your book online, ordered the copy and powered through it as well in about a day. And that's when I knew that I was ready to jump into multifamily, or at least starting taking action within real estate. So that was my very short journey to getting into real estate. But uh,
Did you look into real estate though? I mean, like, because I mean, was something going on in your life? You're like, oh, I need some additional income, or I need to replace my income, or any like, why?
so at the time, I was working a shift work job at a commercial nuclear power plant, and I had a young kid, and it was one of those where I just had a realization that, hey, I'd love to, or need to establish some passive income, and ultimately try to create that financial freedom so I can spend more time with my family, do more in the community, and really just try to start giving back a little bit more.
Did you there something about your job you didn't like, or what was it that made you kind of scratch your head a little bit?
Yeah, so the rotating shift work job was pretty challenging. I really enjoyed the job itself, but the rotating back and forth from nights to days was starting to take its toll, and so it was a good opportunity to try to create that passive income uh, to get off the rotating shift job.
How is it taking a toll? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so working 12-hour nights, and the next week swap into 12-hour days, and then just back and forth for a couple of years I was doing that. So it was just I wasn't sleeping great. It was an opportunity to uh, get into real estate and start generating some of that passive income.
So I'm just asking because I want to kind of get a little deeper here. So you had trouble sleeping because you were working a lot. Did it impact your life in other ways, your relationships or your health or like and how other and there must have something that clicked one day and it wasn't like, oh, I'm not sleeping as well. Was there some combination of events or single event where you're like, man, I got to do something about this?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a single event. It was a cumulative effect. Right after a couple of years, it takes a toll on you, man. It's hard to explain, but it's the time you're at home with your family, you're a little less present, and you start doing that compounding over 2 years, it starts to add up. So I wouldn't say it was a single defining moment necessarily, but one of those after a couple of years, I look back going, hey, this is, I need to find a different path here.
Mm. Did you have a conversation with your spouse at all or about around this? Like, hey, this is a problem, and I'm going to look into real estate to kind of fix it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we had quite a few of those conversations over a couple of years, and ultimately, it's the path we decided to go, and it allowed me to kind of scale back on the amount of effort put into. Well, I say effort. This is probably not the right word, but uh, the amount of my life that I was giving up to the W-2 to then take a little bit lower stress job, focus on some real estate as well on the side.
Now, most people who pick up the Purple Book and have real estate on their brain, they're going to flip a house or do a rental or do a burr or something like that. Why did you not do that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'd looked for about a decade at getting into real estate, never pulled the trigger. One of the reasons was the single family rental never really penciled out from a long-term rental strategy. And then when I was on shift doing a fix and flip, didn't make as much sense given my time spent at work, time spent at home. So when I saw multifamily, it made sense from a scalability standpoint. The numbers all of a sudden started to make sense to me, so it felt like the right place to enter.
So it does make a lot of sense when you pencil it out. You're like, a a rental is going to make 200 bucks a month. Well, I need 10. Okay, that's not going to work. But then, and while most people will agree very quickly that is the case, and they start shifting to, yes, we're going to do commercial real estate, they immediately dismiss it as an option because it's too big. It seems too advanced. They need too much money. They don't have the experience. Like, where did you land on that? What were your major concerns, and how did you overcome them in your mind? Where you must have overcome them, otherwise you wouldn't have moved forward with the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were concerns initially, and ultimately it took a mindset shift, right? So I think the more that you get into uh, analyzing deals and talking with your network, particularly those who are also in multifamily, the numbers just you start to get used to and adjust to the numbers. So a $250,000 home initially sounded like a big purchase, which it is, right? I'm not undermining the value of that. But the more you get into it and see the team effect that multifamily has, it makes it more of a challenge for the team to take down as opposed to one or two individuals.
Now, you ultimately decided to kind of working with us in our mentoring program. Why did you do that? What was behind that versus, a lot of people just go ahead and do it and try to do it themselves.
Yeah, so I knew I'd need some education going into it and also a network to get started. So for me, it was the only way I really knew how to evaluate real estate was say a by door price, if you will. So $100,000 a door, 200,000, whatever the price is. There's no real background or that I had for evaluating how a property operates. So I knew out of the gate, I at least need to learn how to underwrite, if you will, or analyze a property. The second piece of it was on the capital raising side, engineering background, a little more analytical. I knew I would need some help learning how to capital raise or sell, if you will. And so that was the second piece of the puzzle. And then obviously I mentioned network. Through the network, I was able to meet my current partners. We're still working together through the first deal, and then hopefully on to the second one here soon.
All right, let's talk about there because typically we talk about two roles in our environment. And syndication is more like the deal finder route, and then there's more the capital raiser route. And then typically our engineers gravitate more easily toward the deal finder route because they're more comfortable with numbers. And yes, you have to talk with brokers, which is very bad, but the topic is numbers, so it's good again. And then these deal finders tend to resist more the capital raising side because, well, they don't really love that idea. And then there's the capital raiser side, who's their complement, right? There are people who really don't like numbers, maybe less detail oriented, but they are relationship people. So you hand them the capital raising playbook, they're like, I know what to do from here. How resistant were you in the beginning to capital raising? Like, were you like, oh yeah, give me the playbook, I know what to do? Or were you like, oh, I don't know, this is really uncomfortable for me?
It was uncomfortable out of the gate, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to pursue it, right? Just getting out of my comfort zone, and it was a side of the business that I wanted to learn. All right, I think Kiyosaki says it in his book as well, that learning how to sell is one of the most important traits or skills that you can pick up. So that was one of the coming in, is one of the areas that I wanted to really improve on or really learn how to do. And so, it just took kind of facing that discomfort and getting used to it, adjusting to it. I'm still learning today, right? It's just a continuously learning process for me. But all that to say, I do lean more towards the analytics, the analysis side of it. But I do want to continue to build on capital raising skills.
So how did you do that, right? Because a lot of people are resonating with, oh my gosh, I'm resisting the idea of raising capital. I don't know how to do it, never done it before. I don't want to beg my friends and family to do it. Like all these things may be going through your brain. But then how did you kind of overcome that? And maybe there was something in you're working with a mentor or working with a community or network or something. How did you overcome that? Like be specific around that because a lot of people are like, okay, how do I overcome this mindset about raising money?
Yeah, so there are quite a few. There's been quite a few mentors and coaches through the program as well who have helped me with it. But initially, it was just trying to have conversations with people that I care about to show them this awesome new investment vehicle that has the potential to change lives, right? And so once I really started to form that story or that framework, it became a lot easier to have those conversations. I did have the help, like I said, of your coaches. some of the mentors I've gained along the way, partners along the way. But ultimately, it was just, the first three or four conversations were rough, and but I had to learn to dial back my own personal excitement a little bit, but ultimately use that to fuel the conversations and communicate the message that I thought was worth communicating.
So somehow you were convinced to just start talking to potential investors. My guess is probably friends and family you started talking to.
That's right. Yeah, all friends and family for the first raise, and that was after the first few. Go ahead.
Before we get to the raise, so you're talking to your friends and family, you're basically testing the playbook on these friends and family, right? And it was a little rough. Like, was it as okay? What was the result of that? Like, was it as bad as you thought? Because most people are like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm afraid to even mention the idea of raising money. What was the result? In other words, when you actually tried it, you said it was rough, but what was the result of that? It must have been somehow encouraging in some way. Otherwise, you probably would have stopped.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of folks said no, not really interested. And then, a handful of people said, yeah, this sounds neat, or hey, maybe next time let's see how things go for the first deal for you. And so I was very transparent up front. I invested a little bit myself. I believe in investing alongside the people that I also asked to invest in. So it was all in all, it was uncomfortable up front. But the worst people can really say is no, right? And then that's kind of the end of the conversation if they do.
So the more you did it, the smoother it got, it sounds like. What are some of the things? How did you refine your approach, like with every conversation? What did you do? Like when you say it was rough, what was it like first? And then how did you kind of refine that moving forward?
Yeah, so initially I would say there was a little more focus on what I had found and what the benefit that I believe was there versus I think the focus after the first few conversations shifted more to, how can it help the people that I'm talking to? That's really where the some of the mindset shift came in. And also, like I had mentioned, getting over the initial, hey, I was excited to find this new investment avenue that had great benefits, but kind of dialing that in just a little bit to fuel the conversation, focus on the person I'm talking to, and also, just how I can add value to them.
So a little less bubbly about the thing, right? Because you don't want to be too exuberant. Other people go, "Oh my gosh, this is sounds like some kind of crypto thing." Um, but then it sounds like to me like you learn to start asking questions more versus, "Hey, I got this cool thing. You want to invest?" And so it sounds like you learned to start asking more questions about what the investor was looking for.
That's exactly right. Yep. So placing the focus on the investor. Hey, what are you looking for? What are you currently doing? Is it working for you? Do you think this could be a potential slot, at least in your investment strategy?
And why were investors interested in talking to you, right? So when you say, "What are you currently doing?" Why would they invest with you? Was it a way for them to get into real estate? Was it a way to get into it for the first time? Maybe they had some real estate, didn't like it. In other words, how and why did this fit into kind of their investment goals?
Yeah, so as a way to get in passively in real estate, right? There's obviously the tax benefits, and it was an opportunity, particularly with my investor base, to also use self-directed IRAs, which is huge. There's, a lot of folks have an old 401k or an old IRA that's sitting out there, not really being invested, and it's just stagnant money that's losing value. So that was really once I kind of learned the aspects of that, that was a good opportunity to then relate to an investment avenue that they could pursue realistically.
Yeah, there's so many people who have IRAs and they're getting like they're invested in CDs, mutual funds, and I mean a staggering amount of people, and they don't even know they can invest in real estate with it. So it sounds like that was like a pretty big avenue for you to raise that money from essentially self-directed IRAs.
It was, yeah, that was a huge avenue for me.
Yeah, so if you're new to self-directed IRA investing, we just released a podcast with Karen Hall, I believe, about self-directing IRAs. So take a look on the podcast or just run it through chat. It's a game changer as well. So it's like learning how to raise 1031 exchange money. It's this giant new bucket of people who have all this money saved up for decades, and they don't even know they can invest it at all. So let's talk about your first deal. I think it was a 96 unit deal that you did in Charlotte. Talk to us how that came about. How did you, because you mentioned a partner or partners, but talk about how that deal came about.
Yeah, so first deal was 96 units in Charlotte. I met the lead sponsor through a connection from your program. They made the mutual introduction. I mentioned to that person that, hey, I'm looking to invest in Charlotte, really North and South Carolina, a couple of the larger cities for target markets. But Charlotte was on that list, and he's like, hey, I know somebody who invests there, who's established there. So I got on a call with him. We really hit things off. He mentioned he had this deal under contract, sent me his investor deck and underwriting. And then from there, I tried to make it my mission to find ways to add value to the team while also raising capital. So I was being analytical. It was a good opportunity to jump into the underwriting, ask some, bucket some questions together and send periodically, and then just tried to learn every aspect of the deal that I could.
Yeah, this all happened very quickly. I think you had this conversation within like 2 months after starting to work with us. And it is how was that enough time for you to learn how to do this stuff? Like, what did you do to before you even had that first conversation? Because I'm sure you didn't have that conversation like first day in the program because you probably don't know what you're talking about. But it also seems to indicate that it doesn't take years to learn this stuff. So, like, what kind of setup did you do before then, and how long did that take?
Yeah, absolutely. So I targeted the program you laid out 10 hours a week or 5 to 10 hours a week is a target. And on average, if you do that for about 6 months, you can become, uh, very good at any one particular skill. So I took that and said, hey, I'm going to try to do 15 hours a week and see if I can expedite it. And so that was really my approach, getting through some of the coursework, initially getting some of the systems set up to capital raise and analyze deals. And then also I was trying to network like crazy. I'm just anybody and everybody I came across in multifamily. I wanted to talk to them, see what they were about, and just see if we could, see if we had any kind of connection there. So that was my playbook, if you will. 15 hours a week was reasonable, right? So an hour a night and then a few hours on Saturday.
That's a lot though. Especially you, I mean, one of the things I hear a lot is, my gosh, how am I going to find the time? And our guidance is 5 hours a week, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna triple that. And that does explain, by the way, why you got results so quick. If you're spending 15 hours a week, because in 15 hours, you can, for example, go through the entire course in the first week, essentially.
Mhm.
How did you find the time or make the time? Like, what
I
did
just
you give? Less Netflix, less video games. Like, what'd you do differently?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was less TV. I cut out TV in the evenings. Started getting up early, or I guess continued to get up early. I just enforced it a little more discipline. And then, I mean, ultimately, it was an hour in the morning, usually an hour in the evening, and then a little bit on Saturdays. So that was what worked for me. That was the amount of effort and commitment I was willing to put into it. And then, ultimately in the end, it paid off for me.
And how supportive was your wife on this? What she like? She was like gung ho. She was neutral. Was she resisting you? Like, what role did she play in this?
Yeah, I'd say initially there's a little resistance because it was a change of pace, right? I was going to bed shortly after our daughter went down. So there was initially a little less time together, but we ended up finding a balance, right? To where we could spend time together, still spend time with my daughter and maintain that family balance as well. But, after first couple of weeks or so, we found that sweet spot and everything she was very supportive of after that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you learned all this stuff pretty quickly. You started networking. Now, typically, you probably identified yourself a little bit more as a deal finder. And why did you more shift to the capital raising route? Is it because you were networking and you found this partner who already had a deal, and then you kind of pivoted a little bit to capital raising?
Exactly. Yep, that's spot on. And then the other piece of it too was coming in with no real estate experience. I knew that I would need to start to build a resume, and the fastest way to get into an investment is to be able to bring capital to it. So it's a very important role in each deal. When I saw or kind of learned and realized that, it was my end to get in the first deal.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So learning how to raise capital is one thing, but you raised like over $700,000 for this deal. So it wasn't just like $100,000. You raised a considerable amount of money. Um, what was that effort like? I mean, was that like super stressful, huge effort, super hard? Was it easier than you thought? Like, what was it like to raise that amount of money? because you've never raised money before. So what was that like?
I wouldn't say super stressful. It was busy, but at the end of the day, I was trying to do one meeting a day for 5 days a week for the 2 months that we were raising. And ultimately, like I said, it was friends and family, so it was really a good opportunity to catch up with some people I hadn't talked to in a little while. Uh, Grab lunch, grab breakfast, grab a coffee, some over the phone. And I'd say the hardest part, right? It's just people are going to say no. I don't. The sales numbers are probably somewhere around 10% conversion rate. So I was for 5 investors talked to it wasn't quite 50 people, but somewhere around there, right? So that was probably the hardest part initially, was just adjusting to they're accepting, hey, people are going to say no, and that's okay. But all in all, it wasn't super stressful. It was just a matter of just putting yourself out there and communicating a clear message.
What was your system for reaching out to investors? You said it was around 50 or so. It's a little bit of a it's a sales process. So what was your center your process that you were following?
So initially it was text, and then it was some text and emails, and then eventually towards the end of the raise, I had a little bit of luck with, but started to post on LinkedIn just to more or less to help reframe who people knew me as, right? So for the longest time, I was a commercial nuclear power operator, engineer, and so people saw me like that. So I had to kind of reframe that and say, hey, this is what I'm getting into now. So I think that helped some towards the end, but ultimately, text and emails, and that's starting to mature a little bit more as I go for or progress a little bit more.
Yeah. How were you able to overcome your essential lack of any kind of real estate experience?
Being able to leverage the team. The,
Mm.
the team that I've partnered up with and continue to work with has a lot of really great experience. So it's being able to leverage that team, and then also finding the skills that you do bring to the table. There's a lot of parallels between engineering and real estate and operations and real estate. So it's really just finding the skills that I've developed over 10 years and being able to relate that through messaging to real estate.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you closed that deal. Have you had any kind of activity since then? Like what have you been up to since then?
Yeah, so we're putting offers in. There's a few promising prospects, nothing currently in the pipeline, but you never know. Could be sooner than later.
So you obviously have this one partner that you're obviously going to continue to work with. Are you looking for your own deals as well, or you kind of put that on pause a little bit?
Yeah, so we're looking for deals together, and there's a team of four of us that are currently working on that.
So how did you guys separate your kind of the rules? Do you have a different geography that you're all looking in, or how are you separating the work?
Yeah, so I'm looking primarily in Wilmington, North Carolina. One partner looks in Charlotte. We do have a partner in Florida, and then the fourth partner handles more of the investor relations, the sales side, some of our uh, networking and with vendors locally in Charlotte. So we split the deal finding out like that. It's usually all hands on deck for due diligence, and then asset management, depending on the city that it's in. One person is more the boots on the ground operator, if you will, and then the rest kind of handle more of the back office, the financials work.
Cool. Now, what are your kind of your plans for the future? What's kind of your vision for the next, 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, so 1 to 3 years, I'd like to continue to build and scale a portfolio, and hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months, be able to exit W-2 fully, and then continue to pursue this more. So I'd like to continue to grow capital raising, continue to support in acquisitions, and then continue to scale the business.
That's awesome. So what's your advice, Jordan, to someone who's, maybe where you were, W-2 job right now, and read the Purple Book and, wants financial freedom with real estate? Like what is your advice to them?
Take the first step, be willing to make mistakes, put yourself out there. Those are probably the three things I would say. It's The first step is the hardest one to take, and so I think if you overcome that, then the rest will fall into place.
What should that first step be?
To me, the first step would be getting into a network. Michael Blank program, just getting into a network where other like-minded people are there to support you and help you learn. So that was my success, and that would be the path that I would recommend to anybody else.
Yeah. Cool. How can people connect with you, Jordan? Find out more what you're up to.
Yeah, so I have I call it the comprehensive guide to investing in multifamily syndications. You can download that on www.graceinvestmentcapital.com. You can also schedule a meeting with me there. I would love to hop on a call and get to know you, and then see if the deals that we find will be a good fit for you.
That's awesome. That's great hanging out with you. Thanks for sharing your experience. Awesome. Congrats again on getting this huge raise done, within 3 or 4 months. So that's amazing.
I appreciate it, Michael. Thanks for having me on the show.